Hi, I'm Kay Snyder. Thanks for joining me for another Snyder Talk video commentary. As you know, this isn't your typical video commentary because it's on a slideshow. My special guest today is Kay Snyder. She's in Fort Worth, Texas. I'm in South Carolina, so obviously I'm talking to her by phone. But Kay has just returned from Israel, and I want her to tell you about her trip. Good morning, Kay. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fine, thank you.
Kay, tell us a little bit about what you were doing in Israel.
Well, actually, I was there to help prepare for an oncoming war that we know, that Israel knows, and we all know that they are so threatened by war, and we know there's one coming, and we believe, and they believe, I think, that this is the big one that will be coming. And so, therefore, they have asked for the believing community of America to join alongside them to be helpful to Israel in any crisis that they might face, whether it be an earthquake or whether it would be a war. This particularly, I was there for war preparation. And actually, we have been putting together here in America training. This is the EVP, Emergency Volunteers from America, under the International Director of Adi Zahaba, and he and I worked together, and I went over, and we were working together to prepare. They needed me to prepare because I was in restaurant business and that sort of thing, for the volunteers that will be coming from America to help Israel in emergency, especially during a war.
Kay, you've spent a lot of time in Israel. For those of you who have never met Kay or don't know her, about her, Kay lived in Israel for a number of years and knows a lot about Israel. Was there anything, you were staying in Jerusalem while you were there this time, was there anything going on in Jerusalem specifically that was different than you were accustomed to?
Well, it's not so different than what we were accustomed to because we were always exposed to people coming in and bombings and someone to attack Israel at all times. And there are things that go on every day in Israel that you don't hear about because they've stopped them. And every day the security of Israel is so well orchestrated that they really take care of business. Every day you never hear about many attempts that there are on even Jerusalem itself. And because their security is so well organized machine, they take care of those things. And while I was there, there were attempts to really do some things to Israel. While I was there, we had rockets coming in all over Israel from the Gaza Strip and those areas. They also went around from Gaza, the area. They went into Egypt and put on Egyptian uniforms and was coming in to attack Eilat. All of these things were taking place while I was there, and rockets every day were coming into some of the big cities in the south, and there was attacks all the time. And people in America are not even aware that these attacks go on constantly, and they will not sit down and talk peace with Israel, but they will attack all the time. And I think the reason I'm saying this, I'm adding two words, if you don't mind, but my concern is that if Palestine wants peace, I know that Netanyahu and the people there are willing to talk peace and to help them to have a place established. But the point is, at this point, they have aligned themselves with Hamas. Yeah. And they have all of the Gaza Strip is filled with the Hamas. And they're people that will not recognize Israel as a country. They will not recognize them, and yet they want their own country, and they want Israel to recognize them and the world to recognize them, but they don't want to recognize Israel. And I think that that's where in all of the problem lies. Until they can come to that conclusion, then there is a problem that's going to exist, and they're not willing to do that even as to this day, as they're trying to seek their own country. And what they do is constantly are bombarding Israel. And people do not understand. You have your little children going to school. You have your children in school. You know, they never know each day who's going to be hit with rockets from Gaza. And it seems that we get a lot of news about them wanting peace and they're wanting their land, but they're not wanting to recognize Israel. They're not wanting to give them peace. They're not wanting to stop killing. And this goes on constantly. While I was there, in each city there would be 60 rockets coming in. There'd be 30 rockets coming in. There would be in different cities all over Israel, and even the attempts on Jerusalem. Listen, I'm telling you, the people have to live constantly alert. And no country should have to live like that. That is a peaceful country, and they are a peaceful country, and sometimes people don't think of them as that, but they're constantly having to protect themselves.
Well, as you know, the Hamas and Palestinian charter still call for Israel's total destruction and elimination.
That's correct.
Until that changes, there can't be peace as I see it. What do you think?
Well, I think there can't be. How can you say you're going to have peace? Because their goal is to not have Israel, for Israel not to be there. So how can you say, come alongside us and we'll have peace? Israel is willing to have peace, but with security, you know, and until they listen to Israel's needs, how can Israel sit down with people that think they should not even exist? You know, it's just, I mean, even our president says, how can you expect Israel to make a declaration with them when they think Israel shouldn't exist?
Let me ask you this, Kay. In the United States, you have a good feel for the reactions of people in this country to Israel. What is your feeling today about the attitudes of typical American citizens toward Israel?
Well, I think, and it will sound biased, but I'm going to tell you, I believe that many of the believers, and I call believers the Christians in this country, the Christians, maybe mainly the Protestant Christians, I'll have to say, are very positive toward Israel. They love Israel, and they would do anything for Israel. In fact, we're putting a program together, and have been this last year, with the EVP of Israel, the Emergency Volunteers Project, and I work with Adi Zahavi, and we have been training, and he's been training people here in America that are believers that will go over and help Israel in time of troubles. And that's what I was in Israel for this recent trip, and preparing for a future war. And we know that war will be coming because Israel's threatened every day.
Yes. By the way, Kay is she won't say this, but she's a Bible scholar, a first-rate Bible scholar. And as far as I'm concerned, Kay, you can't read the Bible and read what Yahweh said about who owns that promised land and side against Israel. Do you agree with that?
I agree with you. There is no way. And I, even as a young child reading the Bible, I never could understand why anybody would be against Israel. Now, I know there's prejudice in some areas from Christians, but most Bible-believing Christians that believe what is written in the Word is they know that actually for Christians, Israel is their brother, or their cousin, that is their family. And so Christians, there is no way to divide real believers in Yahweh Elohim, the God. And I know that might be calling that name can be difficult for them, but for us, we know that Israel is our family. And if you don't know that, and if you believe otherwise, and if you're selfish, even in government, if you want to make sure that Israel doesn't get the things they need to be helpful to them during war and whatever, then I'm telling you, you're taking sides against God in this situation.
Well, he's
very clear in his word.
I've even gone so far as to say that at the end of days, and I'm not speculating on when that might be, but I'm saying at the end of days, it won't surprise me in the least if a cut line on our faith, the test of whether we have faith or not, is whether or not we believe what God said about Israel, what Yahweh said about Israel. and basically Israel then becomes the cut line. What do you think about that?
I believe that's absolutely correct. And if you can't walk with Israel, you're not walking with God.
I agree with
you.
that.
You're reading
100%.
a different Bible, and you're putting your own thoughts and words and things. You cannot believe the Scripture and be against Israel. You have to be for Israel.
Well, Kay,
I'm not saying Israel's perfect in every way, but neither is the church. You know.
Well, let me just say this in closing. Judgment for Israel, you say Israel isn't perfect, no nation is. Judgment for Israel is not our responsibility. That's Yahweh's responsibility. We're to side with Israel because we were commanded to, period. Do you agree with that?
Yes. Yes, and he says, pray for the peace of Jerusalem.
Yes.
That is our whole goal. He never has reneged on that. That's our goal.
He never will renege.
So, yeah, and also, he tells you the sign of the people that are his in the Scripture. And sometimes as Christians, we don't even see those signs.
Yes.
Or we don't see what he says. Or we discount what he says in the Tanakh, in the Old Testament. Because in the Tanakh, you know, for instance, Judah or Israel keeps the seventh-day Sabbath. I'm just giving you a for instance here. Well, the point is, it says in the Tanakh that if you keep that Sabbath, it is a sign that you belong to him. Now listen, I don't want to be against any people that keep the Sabbath, and it's a sign that they belong to him, and because we're ignorant of all, because we study New Testament oftentimes in the churches, and we only touch a little bit on the Old Testament and don't really study it thoroughly to see what his name is, who he is, what he says, and what he says is going to be. The truth is the truth from the beginning of Genesis to the end of Revelation. It's a truth.
Yes. Well, we've been honored to have Kay with us today as our special guest. There's a good chance that we'll have a video commentary with video footage while Sukkot is going on in Texas. I hope we're able to meet up together there, Kay.
I look forward to it. And I would like for you to be able to put it on your information that we need volunteers to help Israel. And in the month of November, I will be all over the United States with Adi Zahabia, and we will be recruiting people to help us in Israel to volunteer as for the EVP project for Israel, and that's so I will be with Adi. He is the international director of this volunteers emergency volunteers project, and we will be coming in and out, and so maybe you can help us to reach those people that would be willing to help. And this even, you know, this is the two sticks coming together, because in the Scripture it talks about at the end of days how the two sticks will come together. Well, the two sticks are the believers and Israel, and we are the same family. We are the only two people that worship the same God, the God of Israel, the God of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. And because of that, these two sticks must come together and help Israel during this time. But we would love to especially let people know about how one might participate with us in helping Israel.
Can you give them a contact number or email address or something?
Well, I can, but I will tell you, if they could even call me on my personal telephone, my cell phone, I will talk to them. And it is, what it is called is the EVP, Emergency Volunteers Project. And the international director, I want to give you his number, or let's give you his email.
Good.
I'll give you his email in Israel, and it's azahavi@leaf.co.il. If they would contact Adi and tell them that they heard me, then he and then they can contact me at, I'll give my cell number.
Now be careful, Kay. You don't know how many calls you're going to get.
Well, I get them from all over the world now, you know. And so, but I would be glad to talk to them about being a volunteer for Israel. And we need, like, firefighters and paramedics and nurses and psychologists and social workers and things like that, security personnel and plumbers and electricians and building inspectors, and then those who are EMTs and all and different kind of workers. We need that, and we do training, and we'll do the training and then get them to volunteer to help us, and we really need that. And we're asking the churches to help us, you know, to put that together, and that's what we have done. We've gotten people that are from the churches, and they've all trained. We've been training them this last year. They've been training them, and then I'll give you a website that they can just go to that they can find out about it. And so, well, let me see. For further information, let me tell you, here's the website they could visit. It's www.evp.org.il.
Okay.
And so if they could go to that, they can look and see what we're doing. And so we would love to have believers to join us in this.
Okay. Kay, thank you very much for joining us today, and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Join us again for another Snyder Talk video commentary. Goodbye.